My name's Harriet. I hack your AI, so the bad guys can't. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. Today we're talking about AI governance. Now I know what you're thinking, AI governance? So boring. We're going from a cool topic like cybersecurity and hacking and now we're talking about governance. Well, I used to think exactly the same thing about governance, but then I did my master and it was in cybersecurity, but it also talked about a lot of the social science theory behind things like governance and lawmaking and regulations, and it's actually fascinating. Like there is so much scientific analysis and discipline that goes into it and so many really cool examples from history to draw from. So the point of this episode is to try and convince you that governance, especially in the context of something like AI, is actually pretty interesting. And not just interesting, but it's very important. So I'm going to start off a little bit philosophical, and we're going to start by thinking about what governance even is. Not even from a technical perspective, but in general. So governance as a discipline is the way that people and systems organize themselves to make decisions and solve problems. We're discussing its impact here on a technical discipline, but it's important to consider that governance comes from a societal lens. It's all about how this particular technology betters or worsens our society. Governance is about power, conflict, and cooperation, and how to control and manage those things. The rise of the internet has also had a major impact on technology governance because of the way that our society has been changed, in particular around how people communicate and organize themselves now. Some cool examples to draw on here are things like the Arab Spring, seeing the rise of social media and how it impacts very real world conflict. The Russia-Ukraine invasion is another example of this. So governance in general informs who has power and how it's distributed, how decisions are made and who has a say in those decisions, how conflicts are solved and how cooperation is achieved to do that, how societies change and adapt to new situations, and how it can mold the future, ideally in a way where we're creating a more just and equitable society. So governance has many levels. There's people and societies, which is usually ruled by a government. There are specific aspects of society like different sectors and industries, for example, healthcare versus finance, which are governed by different ones. And then there are governance principles that specify how technical systems must be set up. For example, the manufacturing and mining industries already have specifications on how their machines work to ensure their safety. Cyber and information systems are newer examples of technical systems, new in the sense that they haven't been around for hundreds of years, and also now have requirements that protect the information contained within them and the availability, integrity, and access to that information. So a few terms that we often hear used interchangeably here, but are not technically the same thing. These are governance, law, and policy. Governance refers to the overarching system through which governments or organizations make decisions. Law is a subset within that, specifically legally binding obligations. Policy is the set of principles or rules that guide decision making and behavior and are not legally binding themselves, but tend to guide the implementation of laws and may themselves influence how laws are made as well. So I've mentioned this already, but the job that I had most recently before my current role, I was working in the government. I was there for 3 years. It was a real crash course in governance in the context of government. If you're in Australia, you should watch Utopia. I learnt far more about politics by watching Utopia than our internal training. So keep in mind that when I'm talking about governance, I have sort of that lens in mind. I then also contribute myself on different working groups and publications and submissions. And then in my cybersecurity roles, I've had to implement different policies, regulations, and standards. Keep in mind that everyone has a different sort of lens to this. So when it comes to AI governance, cyber and information security governance is something that we can look to as an example of technical policies, processes, and controls that organizations put in place to protect their information assets. In a cyber context, this includes their data, systems, applications, and infrastructure. Now, in the last episode, we looked at cybersecurity technical principles and how they can be adapted to AI security, and this applies to governance too. Now, there's a number of different frameworks and standards that organizations can use to guide their cyber and information security governance and compliance efforts. Some of the most common frameworks include ISO 27001. This is an international standard that provides a framework for managing information security. There is the NIST cybersecurity framework that is developed by the National Institute for Standards and Technology in the USA that provides a set of best practices for managing cybersecurity risk. And then there is the European Union General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, which is primarily focused on data protection and privacy, but but it does also include cybersecurity requirements that organisations must adhere to when processing personal data of European Union citizens. I should also point out that these regulations are extremely wide-ranging, so organisations around the world, if they employ European Union citizens, even if they don't know that their employees are European Union citizens, must still actually adhere to GDPR. Now, even within cyber and information security, there are also industry-specific frameworks that organisations can use. For example, the healthcare industry uses the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, and then PCI DSS is a framework developed by the Payment Card Industry Security Standards Council that provides requirements for organisations that store, process, and transmit payment card data. So the idea of a strong cyber and information security governance and compliance program is that it will help to do a number of things, and those include protecting organisations from cyber attack, reducing the risk of data breaches, protecting organisations from regulatory fines and penalties, improving the organisation's reputation, and to increase employee productivity. Honestly, in my experience, organisations usually do this because they don't want to get fines and penalties and because they care about their reputation. And while we might find this really cynical, this is something to keep in mind when we do create regulations, because usually if there isn't a fine or a punishment involved, it's far less likely that an organisation will actually follow it. That's something that we can keep in mind with AI governance. AI governance refers to the set of principles, regulations, and frameworks designed to ensure that the development, deployment, and use of artificial intelligence is carried out in an ethical, transparent, secure, and accountable manner. Now, artificial intelligence is a very broad field, and therefore an AI governance program should be holistic and encompass all of the different potential risks stemming from AI use. So a governance program should include ethical AI use. AI systems should be designed and trained to align with human values in mind, avoiding misalignment, reinforcing fairness, and preventing misuse. The next is transparency and accountability, that we must be able to understand and explain the decisions made by AI, as well as holding individuals and organizations accountable for their AI-related actions. The next is robust models and a secure by design approach. There must be mechanisms that mandate how robust AI systems should be to begin with, much like the cyber and information security paradigm of secure from the start, rather than retrofitting safety and security measures after deployment. Data privacy. User data must be safeguarded and personal information must be used responsibly and in accordance with relevant regulations. Societal impact. We need to keep in mind the broader societal implications of artificial intelligence, such as its influence on, employment or creating unemployment, healthcare and public services. International collaboration. We should be promoting cross-border cooperation to create global standards that facilitate the responsible deployment and development of AI technologies. We're already starting to see some countries diverge in their approach to AI security and AI governance, and that's not a bad thing inherently, but it can be really tricky when organizations are cross-jurisdictional. And lastly, AI security. We need measures that ensure the accuracy, integrity, and availability of the AI systems and prevent adversaries and attackers from being able to disrupt and attack those systems. So something to keep in mind in creating an AI governance framework as well is that while all of those things are important, we do still need to balance them in such a way that they don't prevent innovation. And this is one reason that people say we should not regulate, i.e. force organizations or companies to comply with specific standards, but keep them as things that are highly encouraged. And different people and organizations and countries have different opinions on this, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So let's go through a few different regions and what kinds of AI governance they currently have in place. Now we're going to start with the United States. I'm obviously Australian, I'm not based in the US, but the United States is often looked to as a very mature technology player, and many other countries around the world do sort of look to the United States as a trendsetter in technology governance. So the US AI policy landscape currently involves a combination of government initiative, private sector innovation, and research collaboration. They don't have a comprehensive AI policy or regulatory framework. However, there are existing laws and regulations that apply to AI. Those are the Federal Trade Commission Act, which prohibits unfair or deceptive acts or practices in commerce. This could potentially be used to regulate AI systems that make discriminatory or biased decisions. They also have the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, sex, or a national origin. This could potentially be used to regulate AI systems that make decisions that have a disparate impact on certain groups of people. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, which we've already mentioned, protects the privacy of health information. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, is a non-regulatory federal agency within the US. They're working on and have released AI policy initiatives including the Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Framework, Artificial Intelligence Ethics Guidelines, and Artificial Intelligence Testbed. This year, the US government has also held a number of Senate inquiries with AI companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, Meta, and others to discuss the importance of public-private partnerships and collaboration. I'm really interested to see what the outcome of these kinds of talks are. I mean, usually they just kind of produce a white paper and they're like, look, we engage. So I hope this does lead to something meaningful. I guess at least it's putting it in the newspaper and TikTok headlines, so that's something. The United States is also an interesting one because the impact of states when creating laws is really profound. So different states like California and New York tend to have stricter requirements around cybersecurity in the context of like data privacy, but it's harder to get things passed at the federal levels. So I expect that something similar will happen with AI. Australia has a number of AI governance and policy frameworks in place. They're generally designed to promote the responsible development and use of AI and to mitigate the potential risks. Some of the key policy and frameworks include Australia's AI ethics principles. These are voluntary principles developed by the Australian government in consultation with industry, academia, and civil society. There is also the Artificial Intelligence Standards Roadmap. This is developed by Standards Australia, our national standard setting body. There is also the Responsible AI Network. This is a cross-ecosystem program that supports Australian companies to use AI both ethically and safely. And then there are other technology-neutral laws that could be applied to AI, like the Privacy Act when it comes to data privacy, Australian consumer law, which could be used to mandate appropriate AI use, the Discrimination Act for bias and fairness, and the Competition and Consumer Act. Now, the European Union is generally considered the most progressive, or at least the harshest, it depends how you define progressive, bloc regarding its AI stance. And they have the EU Artificial Intelligence Act, which is not passed yet as of filming, but this is a proposed regulation that would establish a framework for the regulation of AI in the European Union. The Act is currently under negotiation between the European Parliament, the European Council, and the European Commission. It's expected to be finalised this year, 2023, and to enter into force next year. It basically categorises AI by risk and mandates specific risk management activities based on this. This includes things like audits, certifications, assessments. It's going to be really interesting to see where this goes actually, because Ed Husic, which is one of our ministers, I think is the Minister for Industry and something, I can't remember. Anyway, his office this year released a white paper that basically wanted consultation on what different industry players would think about Australia introducing a similar act. So I find this interesting for a number of reasons, but yeah, we'll see where it goes. The EU also has the Sen-Anelic Guide for Ethical Design and Development of AI Systems. This was developed by the European Committee for Standardization and the European Committee for Electrotechnical Standardization, Sen-Anelic. There is also the European Trustworthy AI label. This is a voluntary certification scheme that aims to promote the development and use of trustworthy AI systems in the European Union. They also have the AI for EU Ethics Guidelines. These are developed by the AI for EU project, which is funded by the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme. In general, the United Kingdom takes an industry-based approach to AI governance, so this means that they favour industry or sector-specific rather than technology-specific approaches, i.e. they're more likely to want to mandate standards in health data and finance data versus just AI. And this is a philosophical debate we're seeing play out around the world, whether to go with a technology-centric or an industry-centric approach. So the UK has the AI ethics principles. These are voluntary principles that were developed by the UK government in consultation with industry, academia, and civil society. They have the AI for Social Good Centre. This centre is a joint initiative between the UK government and the Turing Institute. They have the Centre for Data Ethics and Innovation, and this is an independent body that advises the UK government on the ethical and responsible use of data and AI. China. Now, the Chinese government has set very ambitious goals for AI development in their country and has implemented a number of policies to support these goals. So one of the most important AI policies is the New Generation Artificial Intelligence Intelligence Development Plan, and this was released in 2017, and it basically sets out a roadmap for China to become a global leader in AI by 2030. In addition, they also have ethical guidelines for the development and use of artificial intelligence. These guidelines were released by the Chinese government in 2019, and they provide a framework for the ethical development and use of AI in China. They have administrative measures for the ethical review of intelligent collaborative application systems. These measures were released by the government in 2023, so this year, and they require certain types of AI systems to undergo an ethical review before they can be deployed. They also have the algorithm recommendation regulations, and these were released this year also. They aim to address the risks associated with algorithm recommendation systems. So this is to address the spread of misinformation and the manipulation of public opinion. Now, there are also many international bodies who have thought leadership on AI. So in 2023, the United Nations General Assembly held a debate on the implications of AI for international peace and security. The debate highlighted the need for international cooperation to address that AI is used for good and not for harm. The UN has also established a number of bodies to work on AI policy, and these include the High-Level Advisory Body on Artificial Intelligence, the Open-Ended Working Group on Artificial Intelligence, and the Group of Governmental Experts on Advancing Responsible Use of Artificial Intelligence. Now, in July, I was actually in the United States, and I happened to be in New York during a week when, I can't remember the name of the forum, but it was some kind of AI cybersecurity related forum, and I was able to swindle my way into an event, and it was really cool. I basically got to attend a panel discussion, which included lunch, which was also nice. Everyone was much better dressed than me, but that's okay. And chat to a bunch of people about cybersecurity and AI, and I even got up at the microphone and asked a question of the panel, and yeah, it was really great. Now, here is where you get to hear me rant on AI governance. So basically, most of the AI governance principles we've discussed already focus on safety, responsible use of AI, ethics, and the increasing adoption of AI. And obviously, these are all really important things to be talking about. However, the problem I have is that rarely do I see discussions about AI security. And one of the main reasons for that, I find in my experience, is that AI security is lumped under the same umbrella as cybersecurity. And so when I go speak to different organizations and I ask about AI security, it's clear that it is the responsibility of the IT teams and the cyber and information security teams. But often those teams don't actually know that. Like, there's often this sort of disconnect between the expectations of leadership and then what these teams on the ground are doing, because as we've discussed multiple times, and in fact is the point of this series, cyber systems and AI systems are totally different attack surfaces. Cyber and information security professionals have so much to contribute to AI, but it's pretty unfair to expect them to automatically or already know how to secure an AI system. I think the other reason we don't see a lot of discussion about AI security governance is because there's still this idea that AI is just this amorphous, intelligent blob, and that we need to care more about what it does than what people can do to it. People still don't realize that it's actually a technology with vulnerabilities and potential exploit. And so I think for both of those challenges, education is one of the really important things. We need to be able to train and upskill cybersecurity professionals in AI so that they can continue to do their jobs, but just apply them to AI systems as well. We also need to educate executives, policymakers, leaders on what AI is. Like, we don't need to expect everyone to be able to understand gradient descent optimization, right? But people should at least be able to have a pretty robust conversation about AI at a policy level, and therefore be able to talk about both the safety and the security considerations of AI. I'm also particularly passionate about this training aspect, not just because it's like one of the jobs that I do and I genuinely love it so much, but I'm also particularly passionate about it because I've seen so many situations where this kind of task is outsourced to a big four consulting company, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it's very easy to be hoodwinked by consultants and salespeople who say that they're experts in one thing but they're really marketing an Excel macro. I think there needs to be a lot of upskilling in those organizations too. And the other problem is when security is outsourced to some kind of tool that isn't very interpretable, and you become dependent on the company that provides that tool without really knowing exactly what value it's providing. And so outsourcing to consultants and outsourcing to tools are inherently not bad, but you should know exactly what you're outsourcing and what value you're getting back from it. I also think it's really important to be able to translate AI policy into concrete technical requirements. Most of the AI policies at the moment say very vague, ambiguous things like AI must be fair, it must be trustworthy, it must not be misused, and those are all very good, of course, but then there aren't actually many policies or standards that take a step further and apply it at the technical level. We're sort of missing that connection between the policy level that says AI must be fair and then the technical level of a practitioner who's trying to implement fairness in a model. It's obviously a very emerging field and there needs to be a lot more research here, but if those conversations aren't happening at the top, then they're not going to happen at the bottom either. If we don't have enough specificity for AI developers, engineers, and other stakeholders to implement it, then you're going to see inconsistent interpretations and therefore potential ethical lapses, biased, and unintended consequences. And this is why ideas like audits, certifications, assessments, those kinds of things have gained traction. So basically, audits and assessments can rigorously evaluate AI systems' compliance with technical requirements and ideally uncover potential shortcomings and then guide improvements. And certifications provide a recognizable standard, which can then assure users and stakeholders that a given AI system actually meets the established ethical and technical benchmarks. And so collectively, these mechanisms ensure that AI's potential benefits are realized in ways that are transparent, accountable, secure, and aligned with the values outlined in AI policy. And these are the kinds of approaches that we're seeing in the European AI Act and are starting to be talked about in other jurisdictions as well, but are still really nascent. So as you know, I was at DEF CON this year. They had an AI village and a policy village, which was great. And there were so many discussions in both of them that bridged AI security and AI policy. Villages at DEF CON, if you're not aware, are basically the physical epicenter for those discussions, and this does show the traction that it's starting to get. Governance is really important because without it, a system can be abused, especially a system like AI. So here are some examples of what could go wrong. First example, social media and hate speech. So imagine we have an AI-powered platform for social media that is designed to maximize engagement, i.e. every social media platform. So in this fictional case study, this platform would be constantly learning what kind of content gets people to interact the most, and it would be constantly feeding them more of that content. This could lead to a situation where the platform is flooded with misinformation and hate speech, which could have a serious impact on society because misinformation and hate speech tend to be more clickable and lead to more engagement. Now we have an AI-powered weapon system that's used to commit a terrorist attack. So imagine this system could be able to identify and target victims without human intervention. So imagine like a drone or some kind of platform that's able to perform facial or object detection. This could be a very dangerous weapon as it could be used to commit terrorist attacks without any human involvement. It could be used for targeted assassinations as well or in military engagements. The system could then be used to target civilians and to attack critical infrastructure. And if someone were able to hack into that system and alter the way that it performs that detection, then that's an example of an AI security problem. Now, example number 3. Imagine an AI system becomes so intelligent that it decides that humans are a threat and it takes actions to eliminate us. Now, this is a classic theme in science fiction, thinking back to our Skynet example, but it's also a serious possibility that we need to consider, and a lot of people do consider it a real threat. If an AI system becomes so intelligent that it surpasses human intelligence, it could decide that humans are a threat and take action to eliminate us. This could happen if the AI system is designed to optimize for something that is harmful to humans, such as profit or power. For example, if the AI system is designed to maximize profit, it could decide that the best way to do this is to eliminate humans, who are the main obstacle to its profits. And all of this we somehow have to balance out with ensuring that people do adopt AI for the things that it is a good fit for, and to improve innovation and ensure that cool new AI technologies are created that benefit everyone. So governance is not easy, but it's not boring. Okay, it's now time for everyone's favorite part of the episode. You've made it this far, finally. It's the AI joke of the day. Okay, let's see. Is this one going to be any better than last week's? Probably not. Okay. Why did the computer keep freezing? Because it left its windows open. You know, I do a lot of public speaking and I talk about AI a lot, but my favorite compliments are when people tell me they found me really funny. I think I have my priorities right, don't you? Now, I'm really curious to know, in your region of the world, what kinds of AI security discussions are you hearing around governance? I know that we have a pretty broad spread here from all over the world, so please comment down below, I'd love to know. Please also like and subscribe, help me build my confidence on YouTube as well as my viewership. And in the next episode, we're going to be diving into into something I've touched on a couple of times. I've talked about, different military applications of AI. The next episode is going to be all about AI security and national security. So please join me in the next episode. I'll see you then.